The man played defense when he needed to down low in the paint. The man was getting boards for you, securing things, and the man was hitting big shots. Big Perm is here to make a statement.
Yeah, we talk a lot, we talked about power forwards a lot and kind of how this tournament is huge for people's draft stock.
What's going on, Vinny? We're here with Vincent Valerio, aka Big Perm. We in this home in Staten Island. What's the word?
No, man, it's crazy being back. I don't come back as as often as I used to. My mom moved down to South Carolina, so every time I come here, it's just like you said when you came in, there's a lot of energy in this house. It's kind of surreal being here sometimes. Yeah, I'm from it's called Oakwood, more specifically historic Richmondtown. It's kind of like a little neighborhood tucked in the middle of Staten Island. Not a lot of people know, but it's kind of weird, like thinking back, like growing up here. I don't tell a lot of people that I'm from Staten Island. I guess it kind of has like a little bit of a negative connotation, but it's where all my formative years were. I went to school right down the block here at St. Patrick's, and it definitely had its positives and its negatives. Like, I do feel like I was a little bit sheltered by growing up here in this area. I look back and I had a pretty rough childhood, but there are bright moments when I come here and think about times playing with my dad in the kitchen area here and dressing up in costumes and stuff. We used to do fake wrestling events and stuff like that. And my dad was a very creative guy, and I kind of feel like that's where I got my creative side from. I still feel like a kid, even though I'm 33. I'm about to say I'm a kid from Staten Island who's got dreams to change the world. That's just how I've always felt. Since I was young, I've always been into being different, always been a little weird. People always see me as weird, but I realized that was just because I always looked at things differently from where I came from. And like I said, just always been my thing. Tell my mom, I don't know what exactly I'm gonna do. I've kind of found a little bit now, but even when I was 12, 13 years old, I was like, I'm gonna change this world somehow. I'm gonna leave my imprint on this world. And it's kind of crazy to say that stuff without really knowing what it's gonna be. At one point in my life, I thought I was gonna be a doctor. Another point, I was a lawyer, gamer. Now a teacher. I still don't know where where my story ends, but it's definitely definitely going somewhere. I think one of my big inspirations though was my mom. I talked a little bit about her before, but my dad wasn't the easiest guy to get along with, and I know that, and they had a lot of rough times, and somehow even with that, she went to work every single day, was leaving at 6 in the morning, coming back at night, still cooking dinner, dealing with all the bills, and went back to school while she was raising us. My dad always had health issues as well. He was a pretty heavy guy, and it can make me cry, honestly, just thinking about how much my mom sacrificed of what maybe her bigger goals would have been, to maybe own a restaurant, all these things, just to make sure me and my brother were good and never felt like we needed anything. So I think about how hard I've worked, and it's literally a quarter of what my mother has done on this earth, grinded from being a person who was just a regular nurse to being the vice president of nursing at Maimonides in Brooklyn. I might have to cut that out, but
And now we're keeping that in.
Keeping that in. Yeah, get that raw, get the raw footage.
So do you think, what you battled with, externally and internally, when you really did become, I guess, enticed by video games, it was definitely a form of escapism, something that you
absolutely
did to feel better?
Yeah, I felt like video games, especially that it was not online play back then, is kind of dating myself a little bit. It would just be me and my brother, or most of the time just me by myself, and I knew that my dad wasn't there, the people at school weren't there, my teachers weren't, my coaches, all the people who I felt like were on top of me at all times, trying to hold me accountable for every little thing, micromanaging, nitpicking. It kind of just went away when I got onto a video game, and I always loved sports games because I always played sports. So I would get all my homework done, rush through, make stuff up to tell my dad I did it right, and he couldn't, he wasn't really sure either, so I would get through just to play video games, stay up super late, get in trouble playing video games, because again, you're right, escapism. It was my release, it was my way, my catharsis, it was my way at that time to cope with just feeling like I had no control in my life over anything that I was doing.
And we back at it again with my guy, Big Perm.
What's good, my boy?
As I'm glad to have you here, my G. As y'all know, last episode, we took a trip to Staten Island, got to know your home a little bit. So it's only fair, for you to get a little sense of my atmosphere, a little home to home, you feel me? So my crib right now. And what I really wanted to get into today is last time we kind of left off, you kind of spoke about I guess, your experience with video games and how you got into the culture and really what it's meant to you. So I want to know a bit more about that.
Well, first off, thank you for having me in your humble abode. I appreciate you.
Of course.
And yeah, it's kind of crazy right now. I keep looking over at it, like seeing you have all these PlayStation 2 games. It's getting me way too excited, not to mention it.
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. So what was your first video game? Like, what really like was your introduction to gaming?
Man, it's so crazy because I really was playing since I was like 5 years old. So like it was really like that's when sports video games I guess made the most sense. It was like NHL, Madden '94, and that's really all I can remember. I think I remember also because it was on Sega Genesis at this point, and like that's how old I am. Is I was playing Sega Genesis as my first console. But then there was like some Spider-Man game, and I always remember the Spider-Man game because again it was like mad basic. If you played it now, it's the like simple like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle type game, 2D. I was putting my 5-year-old blood, sweat, and tears into this game, and there's no memory cards. And I finally got past the first level. It took me like 5 hours. I had to go to practice. I come home, my grandmother had shut the system off because she didn't know it. Like she was cleaning up.
So how did you get into playing 2K? Because that's like, you know, we all kind of like sports as a kid, but like sports game wasn't the first thing we like grabbed. So what made you gravitate toward 2K?
It's funny because that's where like the first episode we kind of talked about my like heavy involvement in athletics, like playing all different types of sports was like huge for my dad. And you know, I like it just instantly transfers. Like I played football, so let me play the football video game. Like I played hockey, let me play the hockey video game. I didn't start my my basketball career, we'll call it, as a 5'11" white Italian man who can't jump until I got to college. Like I always played basketball, so at that point though, the 2K I don't even think really was a thing at that point. It was like NBA Live was like really the only game, and like NBA Street and stuff like that. So I played all those games, and
that shows your age crazy.
Yeah, but it is what it is. I can't change it. If I could change it, I would, but I can't. So like then I started playing basketball over everything else because like hockey was like my main sport that I was really good at in high school. I won like a city championship. I was like 9th in the league in points, like OD good at hockey. But then my dad passed away, and that was like our thing was hockey. So it kind of really made it hard for me to play hockey. And that was literally my junior year. So then I ended up going to college like a year later. After that, and when I went to school in Harlem. I went to City College. Like no one played hockey. We played basketball, and I was terrible. And they literally put me through the gauntlet. And every day I would just get made fun of how bad I was. And I started getting better and getting better. But it really switched my love to basketball, like being that was the sport I played. Moving forward, going to college, then it was just fun, like, you know, playing against my boys. And that's where, like, it really solidified that 2K was the game because everybody played it. Like, some of my friends played NHL, some of my friends played FIFA. We would play golf video games, like all random stuff, but everybody played 2K. And it would be money games at my house, me punching holes in my wall, like, you know, just... All right, that's at that point. We have other stuff I can tell you afterwards, but yeah, like that to that point, it was me playing against people in college, me playing against my friends at home, like just always going to it as a game that I would, you know, be really good at.
To end this little segment off, I had the segment I wanted to do with you. As you had mentioned earlier, I got a bunch of PS2 games in front of you. So I want you to go, you know, grab some, look at some. I know this stuff. It's a bunch of PS2. I think it's like 50 plus.
Yeah.
You know, just go and take a look, take your pick.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City was like the first game that I actually knew how to use cheats in. Like, so I would be doing crazy stuff that people shouldn't be doing, like, which again, everyone was doing, but it was mad fun to me to be able to like break the rules and like do whatever I wanted. Yo, there's no way you got Hitman 2, bro. And then what, the Time Crisis, bro? I didn't even know they made this for console, bro. What the hell? Nah, this is insane. All right, so Hitman 2, it's kind of weird, like, to be a Hitman fan. There is actual, like, really cult following for it now, but, like, it was such a weird game that when it came out, because you literally just went around and murdered people. And I don't know how I got access to this first game, because, again, it's another mature title. My dad was super cool with doing that, and I'll give him that he never really, like, cared if a game was mature or not, like, once I got to a certain age. But Hitman, literally, just like the fact that you would literally come out and with piano wire, you are taking people out, like, was so cool to me when I was younger. Because like at that time too, like, you know, The Sopranos I think was coming out at that time. Like just mob culture in general was like, you know, because I'm Italian, was like a thing that I had a phase when I was growing up, you know. So like to be able to be a hitman and it sounds mad weird was so fun, and it's actually probably the reason why I'm so crazy right now. But Spider-Man, I always remember Spider-Man. Again, like, younger superheroes are a big thing. Like, I love Spider-Man, the Hulk, all that stuff. But that game, like, I remember, like, yeah, if I looking back now, it might not be the best graphics, but the fact that you were able to actually use the web and like fly around the city, like I didn't know how to do any of the missions yet. Like yeah, I tried, but all it was for me was just like swinging around, like doing the flips and stuff. I was having so, and then you don't even know when you're shooting the web. You just shoot it up in the air and it's connected every time somehow. You don't even have to have any type of skill to do it. But I thought that was so cool because it made it feel like it was so open world when the map was probably like a 15th of the size of things that we play today, but it felt so open world because you could swing around with the web, so that was pretty cool.
Did you ever put your Go-Gurt in the freezer?
I wasn't allowed to have Go-Gurt. My family had all these mad sweet snacks. Nah, we had the Dannon, the little green ones, like the probiotic stuff. I don't know why. It don't make any sense. I had mad Oreos, like all these different snacks with yogurt. We always got healthy yogurt for some reason. Make that make sense in life.
It's like ordering a Big Mac with a Diet Coke.
Exactly. And then that's what my family did. We would go to McDonald's and they all get Diet Cokes. And I never understood that. I always just got regular Coke.
Don't drink your calories. Alright, we're back with another episode with the Misadventures of Vincent Valerio. Personally, it's one of my favorite episodes because I named it. It's called Gamer's Gambit.
That was a nice touch.
Thank you, yes. And it details your transition from leaving a high salary job to becoming a professional 2K player. So let's just hop right into that.
Yeah, so when I think about it, like going to law school was super random for me because that was not something I wanted to do at all when I was growing up. Like we talked about it a little bit in some of the previous episodes. I wasn't the best kid around like 18, 19 years old. I was pre-med, had this very prestigious program I was in, and I failed out because I wasn't mentally ready for it. So going to law school really was for my mother. I struggled with some things, and it was really for me to pay her back, try to make something of myself, come out with a doctorate degree. So, once I finished law school and everything, I felt like I really had accomplished something. Like getting through it was like one of the hardest things for me. But now I'm in there and I'm working as a lawyer, and like, yeah, it's whatever. People think it's super prestigious, and it is. Like, I did go through a lot of schooling, I learned a lot of stuff, but the real nitty gritty of being a lawyer, it wears on you, especially when you're at a small firm like I was. And once I decided to leave finally, things did not get easier at all. It actually got way more difficult because I had some money saved up, but all I could do really while I was playing 2K was try to make money on the side by going to court cases randomly and delivering documents, very simple stuff just to try to stay afloat. Now on the other side of things, deciding to become a professional 2K player, there's one step right before that. I actually started a YouTube channel with my brother called the Valor Brothers, where we had played 2K, and we would play a lot of park and rec and stuff like that, more casual game modes. And sadly it didn't work out, and that was really tough because I put a lot of time and effort into it. I was editing my own videos, like me and my brother were doing all of the groundwork and technical work behind the scenes, just solo, just the two of us. So when that failed, I basically had, at that time, decided right when it wasn't working that, hey, I love 2K, I've been playing it for 20 years, I'm gonna try to go professional, become a professional 2K player. I had heard about the 2K League, I didn't really know a lot about it. I had a little intermission of playing video games while I was in law school, so coming back into that community being like 27, 28 was kind of crazy because it's definitely a young man's game. And it was super difficult. I had no connection to the community at all. I would just reach out to random teams and random players and just try to get a shot, and none of that worked. I was kind of really lost on where to even go, what to do, and I found this random, what they call a draft league, where you put your name into a pool and they draft you. And looking back now, it's a very low level league, but that actually started my career off. I went in there, made some connections with people, and while this is going on, I'm just thinking about, like, while all that's going on, COVID literally hits.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Thursday night. And it was another day of fast-moving developments in this coronavirus emergency, and we will carefully get through it all right here with you tonight. We're going to begin with the states of emergency across this country, and now here in New York City, a state of emergency declared as well. Tonight, more than 1,300 people sickened in the U.S. At least 39 have died in this country. At least 45 states now and the District of Columbia reporting cases. Additional school districts shutting down today. Now 4.9 million school children across the country at home.
Like, while I'm trying to figure it out, like, COVID hit, and I can't even work as an attorney anymore. Like, they shut down the courts. So So now I'm sitting there like, I'm not really doing great in my progression. I'm probably like 10 months in to try to be a 2K player. I got a few connections, and now I lost my only way to kind of make money. Things got a little scary for a couple months, you know. Thank God, you know, my girlfriend was able to help me out at the time, but for a lot of people, COVID was like a terrible thing. I know people passed away and stuff, but
it was
really,
also like a bittersweet thing. This is the beginning. This is like, damn, like I wanted to leave being a lawyer anyway, being an attorney anyway, and here's my chance.
Exactly. So I can't believe that it happened, because why I was so lucky was with the fact that I registered as a solo attorney right before COVID started. I was able to apply for unemployment through the COVID assistance because my job literally didn't exist anymore. No one was going to court, like that was done. So for a year, that's when it ramped up. Now I'm okay, I have something figured out, like I'm getting money obviously from COVID, the unemployment stuff. Now I'm locked in. I got my little bit of connections. I was like, I'm putting all the stuff I learned from being a lawyer, all the networking and events that I went to, and just the way that I have like a very charismatic personality, I'm gonna put that into 2K. And slowly but surely, I play on different teams every single season, trying to play on different teams, just meeting people, making those connections. Like, I was lucky that I could communicate no matter how I was at the game. My communication skills, my humor, everything worked out really well in building those relationships. So, but at this time, you know, my mom is basically thinking that I'm a bum, straight up. Like I stopped being a lawyer, kept asking me about it, literally just playing video games, and she has no idea that I could lead to a paycheck. I keep telling her, but she don't believe me. After about, I would say 2 years of really trying, playing half while I was a lawyer and then the other half while during COVID, I actually did it. And it was surreal. Like, a lot of people don't know this about the draft night. I wasn't guaranteed at all. Like, a lot of people who get drafted are guaranteed, and they know 100% they get to put a hat on. They knew, based on their relationships or how well they had done, that they were getting drafted. I was the 53rd out of, I believe, 63 picks to get drafted, and nobody told me anything. I didn't find out I was getting drafted until about 5 minutes before it actually happened. My future point guard at that time actually texted me like, yo, we're taking you. And then I got a call from the GM, and I'm sitting there like, oh my God, like I really made it. You know, I was one of the oldest rookies to ever get drafted, and I have the GM of the Bucks gaming team on the phone, like, yo, Perm, we're taking you, man. We like your, you know, we like what you're gonna bring to the table. Like, we're excited to have you out here. And I started crying. I can't lie. Like, it was to really put myself out there on the line, leave a profession that everyone thought I was crazy. You know, my mom, a lot of my uncles and aunts, like my other lawyers I worked with, my friends, they all thought I was crazy, and I finally could tell them, like, I made it.
Making the 54th overall pick for Bucks Gaming superfan, Ben Razier.
With the 54th pick in the draft, Bucks Gaming selects Big Perm, baby. Fear the deer. Let's go.
It was really crazy. Like when I think about it, like I talked about it probably in one of the other episodes, and if I didn't, it was just like to finally get that ability to be like, when someone asks, what do you do? Be like, I'm a pro gamer. And like, oh yeah, by the way, I used to be an attorney. Like, that shift was so huge for my mentals and for my confidence moving forward at that time, that it was really surreal. But once I got to Milwaukee, it was the honeymoon phase. The first thing I did once I started seeing the paychecks hit was I went and bought shoes. I love sneakers. I went and bought 2 pairs of Yeezys. I went and bought a pair of 97s, a couple of pairs of Jordans. Like, I was locked. And I was living that superstar lifestyle for about 3 weeks to 4 weeks until we actually started playing. And a lot of people who actually follow the league might know this, but the one thing that I could say that we did bad as a team in the draft is that we did not draft someone who primarily played the lockdown position. So it was all fun and games, and we were having a blast. Everyone was vibing for weeks and weeks and weeks. But then once we started playing, you know, things really took a turn very quickly. So I would say I had about a month honeymoon phase, and then our first 8 games, we lost all 8 games. And it was brutal because we were the only team to play 8 games in the first week. And by that time, all of us basically knew that if we didn't win out, like our season was over within 1 week of us playing. And that was brutal. That really set everybody off on the team to like not really, mess with each other the way they did before then. And we had a lot of team strife. No one on the team was used to losing, including myself. And I think that all of us had to really learn how to work with that and be better at dealing with losing, because slowly but surely, we started losing every scrim now. All our practices were losing. We ended up losing some more games. I think we ended up starting the season 0-13 before we won our first game. And at that time, the team was already looking to make changes. And, we ended up trading the guy who had been there the longest, A. Rooks. And I feel like that was kind of the moment where everyone knew that this season was done and that we were just basically trying to make it through. And it became really disappointing because we were all really cool. And once these things happened, all the relationships kind of really just plummeted when it came to playing the game. Did some of us still talk outside of the game? Yeah, but when it came to being a team for the 2K League, we had completely fallen apart. And, it led to me even having incidents with some of my teammates. Things that, when I look back now, I could have probably handled better. And, even though I was 31 at the time and I thought I was mature and knew all these things, I still had stuff I had to learn. And there was things about me that I didn't know because I hadn't lost at that level in my entire life at any point. So the things that also kind of made it kind of crazy was that right after all this stuff happened, people are getting traded. My grandmother passed away, and my grandmother, she had lived with me my whole life. Was someone who raised me and was a huge part of my life. And I went home to go deal with that and still had to come back afterwards and still play. It wasn't as clear cut as that as still playing. I was benched at the time, but when I came back, we were in the last tournament. And my point guard came to me before the last game of the season. He said, "Yo, I need you to come and play." And even with all the stuff that had happened, even with all the strife and even all the breakdowns that we had as a team, I'm still a competitor. So I still loaded up. We ended up losing anyway, but it was kind of my note to myself that no matter what happened, with all the stuff that happened, people getting traded, people, my grandmother passing away, people not liking each other on the team, like no matter what, I'm always gonna hoop. I'm always gonna give the best that I have. I knew once that season happened, I had seen people before me have the same type of struggles and then not make it back in. So once the season ended, I was super nervous. I got drafted as the 53rd pick out of 63. So it's not like my value was really high already coming into the league. And then you add in that we had a 6-22 season where we didn't make the playoffs. I knew that my chances were really slim. So right after that, my grandmother passed away, the season ended. 8 days later, the new game came out. So I had no time to process anything. It was right back to the grindstone for another 5 months where I did extremely well. I was super proud of how I performed, but the things that I had done and the things that had happened in that season put such a mark on my resume and my reputation that when the draft came, nobody picked me. I get back from Milwaukee and I have no time to decompress. I have no time to deal with the trauma of my grandmother passing away. It's right back to the grindstone, right back to grinding 13-hour days, trying to build up my connections, because I knew the work I had to do to get back in was going to be even more than it took the first time because of how bad the season went. So I'm literally playing every single day. My relationship with my girlfriend at the time was kind of fractured as well and kind of had a lot of pressure on her because of how much I had to play. And then we had an in-person event in Vegas right before the draft. I played the best that I ever played in my life. It's some of the clips that you'll see in the intro or the audio that you hear in the intro to this documentary is from that Vegas trip. I beat one of the teams that was like top 3 teams in the world in pre-draft at that time, and I still didn't get drafted. And I had to really sit there and deal with it and know that, holy crap, like I might have to really go back to be a lawyer. Like I don't have any prospects in 2K. I failed to get drafted even with me playing the best that I could. And out of nowhere, I ended up meeting my boss now, Jad Schmelzer, who offered me a position with CEI Esports. And at that time, I didn't realize what that was gonna mean for me. It was kind of like, all right, I'm gonna get some money, help me out. But it basically gave me a pathway to stay in esports and have 2K be part of my life for as long as I want to do it.
My My name is Jad Schmelzer. I am the Director of Esports here at CEI. And before I was at CEI, I was a baseball player for the Boston Red Sox.
My name is Joel Lopez. I work for the CEI Esports team as one of the coordinators, also the editor for the magazine that we have here.
I'm Johnny Singleton. I'm a part of the CEI Esports team as a coordinator and also as the lead director for the CEI Esports Project Boost program.
How did Vince and I meet? So we met through a guy named JBM. JBM in the 2K community is one of the best players in the world. He won back-to-back titles, was an MVP, #1 overall draft pick, Rookie of the Year. The accolades kind of go on. Now, JBM was actually having a conversation with Vince around 2K and around academies and trainings and youth programs. And this is where Jack actually made the introduction to Vince to myself because he knew what CEI was currently doing in the space.
Met Vince about a year ago. It seems like he came in to the team, didn't really know much about him. As I started to kind of talk to him and get to know him, I started learning a little bit more about him personally, some of his character traits. Very funny guy. We had an opportunity to work real close together during our time in Red Hook, where we built out an esports lab. One of the first of its kind in the city.
Funny story for how we met. I was actually the first person to train him. So, picture this, going to Brooklyn Marine Park, deep from where I'm at, and this guy comes up in his whip, looking like he done spent, the last 24 hours on a bender. And he actually, his first day on the job, found me, and I was able to kind of talk to him through kind of that first session of what we do here at CEI with the esports program. So that was kind of like the first introduction. And then really for me, I didn't really get to know the man or the individual really until we had a trip in Orlando this past summer, where we took a trip to Orlando for a conference. And that was when we kind of really, connected and really on a deeper level, just personally, from what he's been through in his life and what I've been through in mine. And I think genuinely for me, having that ability to open up to someone like that and have them open up back to me, I think was really a special moment in time.
As far as impact on CEI and what Vince has kind of brought to the table, obviously Vince is a professional esports player, so that gave us a lot of credibility, not just in the space, but also with the students, and also the way that it helped us improve some of our lessons and the way that we would teach and interact and engage with the students. In addition to that, Vince was also a really good mentor to myself and to the others and to the other team members, just because of his personality and who he is. The other thing that he's also brought is just another dimension to the team. So a lot of us kind of come in with different roles, responsibilities, and things that we kind of bring, and Vince was actually able to fill gaps that we didn't currently have and needs that we had, but also help others get stronger and improve in other areas as well for themselves. So I think the impact that Vince has had has not just been on the students, but it's also been on us as a team and as a company as well. Just kind of bringing his personality and charisma into the table, and I think he's been a really, really good addition to the team.
And I really got to see a different side of him, a different element, and how much he really cared, and the love that he put into his craft and the thing that he does for people, and of course for the kids. He's not just a pro gamer, but he's a genuine person that really cares and puts a lot of effort into everything that he does. So, really good.
I think really showcased to me the individual and the person that he truly is, and there's nothing more I can say about him, man. He's a really, really fun, electric individual, brings the energy, and there's no one else like him.
So the last time you saw me, guys, we were talking about how I didn't get drafted back into the league, and I got a job from CEI from my boss, Jad Schmelzer. And at the time, I didn't know what it was going to lead into. I think I mentioned that in that episode, but I was able to really focus on that, and I needed an outlet for all the energy that I had, all that built up frustration I had from not making it into the league. And it gave me an opportunity to do a lot of things that I didn't even know that I was going to be capable of or asked to do. So over like the next 6 months, I didn't really have to focus on playing as much. So I went to a conference in Orlando, spoke to 200 people about esports. Along with my colleague, Joel Lopez, we worked to build out a curriculum around esports. We also ended up administering that course, which is one of the first elective courses, myself and Joel Lopez. We built out exit tickets and tests and all these things. And I truly started immersing myself in being an educator of esports and in this space. I'm in the space of esports and professional gaming just in a whole different way, and it really gave me a lot of perspective. So when the new game came out, I was locked in. I had done the work to secure myself a pretty steady paycheck, and I was ready to play. But what I wasn't realizing, what made it so brutal, was that the year before I had draft eligibility and was in the draft pool automatically from being in the league. Now, I had to sit there and play with other amateurs in these draft eligibility tournaments, plus work, plus play in other leagues against professionals to show that I'm still good enough. And it was getting to a point where my life was just a hamster wheel. I was waking up, going to work, coming home, taking a nap, and then once I got up, I played up until 3 in the morning. And I just became run down. I was lucky to happen to win one closer to the end. But there was an in-person event in Dallas. It was 8 days before the draft. Now, at this point, I already was a top 3 prospect at my position. There was 16 power forward spots available in the league. And I went to Dallas, and once again on the stage, I outperformed everybody's expectations. I beat a team of 5 2K players, a former MVP, the last year's champion. One of them was a champion the year before. And I made it to the Final Four in another in-person event with over 40 teams being there. And so I'm sitting here like, okay, I didn't make it the year before, right? Like I didn't make it the year before, but now I built another year, have this whole other esports thing I'm doing. I've really built myself up as a human being, as a man, as a player, as a teammate, all these things. Get dressed up real nice. It's an in-person draft. I'm like, I'm gonna put my hat on. I'm gonna get to put the hat on finally. I didn't get that experience when I first got drafted because of COVID. And again, I didn't get drafted. I sat there as I watched a lot of friends get drafted, and I was super happy for them. But once it got to the second round, and I hadn't heard anything from any teams, I knew it was done. So I got about a week, to kind of deal with that, not getting drafted. Again, like I said, it was a little bit easier this time, and I was fully locked in now to making myself an impactful team member at CEI. And one of the things I was tasked with as the 2K professional on staff here was I was a coach for 2 different 2K high school teams. One was at Summit in Red Hook in Brooklyn. The other one was the Business of Sports School in Manhattan. And in the beginning, it was brutal because, even though I knew some of the kids at both schools, like fives, was just not what they wanted to play. It was what I knew and loved. It was what I've been playing for 5-6 years professionally, but I needed to find a way to mesh what they wanted and what I wanted. And I realized it clicked one day. I just was watching them play and they were talking about how they played park. And I was like, wait, the 2K League has 3v3. So what I did was I spent, a good amount of time building out a point guard, a lockdown in the center like you would see in the 2K League. And to my surprise, the kids loved it. So that competitive aspect really started picking up, and it culminated with our first ever Champions League finals, which was in person at the Samsung 837 Center on Washington Street. And, thinking about it now, it was surreal. I was the MC and commentator of it, and just want to give a quick shout out to my team, Joel Lopez, Jeff Chambers, Greg Torres, Janelle Robinson, Joel Otero, Jad Schmelzer, Isaac Espinosa, and just everybody, because they all exceeded my expectations, and I think I even exceeded my own expectations for what I can do. We had 6 kids come out on the stage, play on a board that was 3 stories high. We had a board, an actual interactive board, be on the line. It was a couple of $1,000s. And for it being our first event with only 2 schools, the turnout, the energy, the vibes, the competition was something that I'll never forget. I look at all the stuff I've been through, and I know I'm nowhere near being done. I haven't reached my full potential yet as a human being, and that excites me, I still want to try to get drafted. As I said before, I'm a reserve right now for the league, so I have a 2K League contract. I am getting paid by the 2K League. And I'm still also, working for CEI, about to go into the summer, get into the real nitty gritty of building out our program. And, I hope that I can expand this 3v3 league that we have and start including more and more schools. And I want it to be something that really builds a pipeline from high school to the professional league. Because right now we don't have that. You play baseball in high school, you can go to college for baseball and become a professional. And other video games have that. We don't have that right now. So that's my real goal, is to have this be in a lot of middle schools and high schools in New York, and hopefully expand, have it be a nationwide thing where we're playing for large sums of money, even in high school, for scholarships and stuff like that. So that's my main goal right now, and I'm gonna put everything into it to make it work. Everybody counted me out. It's something that I thought about throughout this entire documentary, is how people, just in general, the majority, look at what I did and it's stupid to them. It was a stupid decision that would never work. It's 1 in a million. But I did it. And even if I don't get drafted again, I was a 2K professional. I played professional video games. That can never be taken away from me. And what I used it to do is to start another career in education of that same product, of that same game, the game that I love to play. So at the end of the day, I'm winning right now. I'm doing what I want to do and probably can do it for as long as I can. And, I look back at the journey, and it's been a long one. Some would say it was a misadventure. And I don't regret anything. I would do it all again. I would do it 10 times over. Because I'm here in this moment, right here, right now, doing this. And it might not be like that if I change anything. So all those nights of staying up till 8 in the morning playing, my mom looking at me crazy because I got circles around my eyes every time she sees me, and no one got it. No one understood what it meant. No one understood what it took. Only I did, and I did it my way. And I'll do it again, like I said. Even the last 10 years, that have been really a struggle, whether it was financially, whether it was mentally, emotionally. I've gotten to a place where I have a great support system around me, not only in my work, but also at home, and my family. And so I want to just kind of go through some of the people that really helped me and pushed me to keep doing this and follow my dreams. And, the first one for me is, my partner, Shamik White. I've been with her now for 8 years. We just had our 8-year anniversary. And I might have mentioned in another episode, but I wouldn't even be doing this if it wasn't for her. When I was really struggling one year, it was before I got drafted, I wanted to quit. I felt like I had no traction, nowhere to go, and it just was not worth it. And she sat me down, and I was literally in tears, and she was like, no, you love this. You got to keep doing it. And just the way she flatly said it is the main reason why I kept pushing through and stuff started working out. So, if you're watching this, Shamik, I love you. I don't know where I'd be without you, and you've always been my rock, and I appreciate that. And the next person for me is definitely my brother. My brother Louis. He literally would be on the broadcast typing in all caps Perm Nation when I was in the league, even when we were 0-13. He supported me through everything, and a lot of people don't know I wore 33 to give a tribute to him in the league. That was his old goalie number when he was a hockey player. So I just think about all the things he listened to me venting about how bad my experience was, always listening to me about oh man, this game stinks and stuff like that. He's just always been there, and I know if his support wasn't there, I might have regretted some things and not even kept trying to go. So Louis, if you're watching, I hope you understand how much you helped me. And then it's now more in the present. It's really my team here. There's 2 people in particular. Jad giving me the opportunity, obviously, he's become one of my best friends, is also being a great boss. And, him and Joel Lopez, 2 of my best friends now, and I've only met them about a year ago. There was a time, even after I didn't get drafted the first time, where again, you just go through these internal struggles where you're like, is it worth it? Do you want to keep doing it? And both of them sat there and looked me in my eyes and were like, nah, you got to keep going. You love this stuff, and it's what you want to do. You need to follow your dreams. And that's one of the morals of this story, is you need people around you like that. You need people who actually care about you, and it makes me proud of who I am, that I have a lot of people around me who care that I go and do what I'm supposed to do, or help me seek out what my purpose is and what my mission is here in life. So I just thank them all, And I thank y'all for taking this journey with me throughout all the craziness that I've been through once I chose to, stop being a lawyer and become a gamer. So it's been super fun. It's been cathartic for me, and I hope you enjoyed. If you made it this far, I truly appreciate you. You're a real one. And if you didn't know, I'm Big Perm, professional 2K League player, also CEI extraordinaire. And this was the Misadventure of Vincent Valerio. I appreciate you. I'm like, get up.